Hi, everybody. We are Cindy Lewis and Sandy Orlando, your two co-race directors of the Endurance Event Productions race series, which includes the upcoming Georgina Marathon and Half Marathon presented by Dynamic Funds. So it's 2025, and this will be our 5th anniversary of this Georgina Marathon and Half Marathon. And we wanted to talk to you guys today about what that 5 years has been like, how the race started, what life as a race director was like back in 2021, making this race happen versus all of the pieces that are involved now, 5 years later. So listen right to the end, and you might have a few laughs, and you might learn a little bit about what the life of a race director is really like behind the scenes.
And also why you look kind of tired. But excited. So Dynamic Funds has been on board with us right from the beginning, as well as the town of Georgina. And that's been a huge, huge thing for us. It's really been the backbone of why this race can happen. So way back in 2021, when, remember, we were in COVID, and Cindy and I were training our athletes for pretty much nothing, right? There were no races going on, or we knew that the big races couldn't happen. And Cindy approached me one day and she said, "So why don't we just make our own race?" And I went, "Well, okay," because that's what I do. And she comes up with the big ideas. So we approached the town of Georgina after eliminating the idea of doing a triathlon. Cindy had the big idea that we should probably just do a marathon. And because we were both familiar with the shores of Lake Simcoe, running along there from cycling on there, we thought, what a perfect place. Yeah. Over to you.
And we got really lucky with the town of Georgina. It was the right town to approach. When we went to them with the idea, again, during the pandemic where large gatherings were not allowed, the town was happy to work with us to find a way to be able to do this while following all of the rules and making sure that everyone stayed safe. So, a little bit of information that we'll get to later. At this point, it takes us, we start working on a race about, a week after this year's happens. We start to work on next year. But back then, we started to work on the Georgina Marathon with about 8 weeks before the actual event date happened. So, at the time we were cramming, but at the same time, we knew that all of you runners were just waiting for something to do and something to take part in, and a way to qualify for the Boston Marathon. For that reason, Sandy, do you want to talk about what that entails?
So we had to do an awful lot of learning, a big learning curve. And one of the things that we wanted to do was certify the course. So once we came up with a course that Georgina would let us do, and that took a couple of tries to figure out that we shouldn't probably cross any York region roads and keep it within the town of Georgina, which is why it's along the lake. We discovered how to go about measuring that with Peter Pym, who is a professional measurer. So we went up there and we had to do a calibration course. So that meant me and Peter running out onto the road when there's no traffic coming with a metal tape measure and measuring between two nails in the road and measuring out 100-meter stretches until we had a 900-meter stretch measured out along a curb road, running off the road when the buses came and the cars came, and trying not to get killed. And then that was the calibration course. And then we had to go and do that along the actual course that the runners run on. So we're out there with putting nails in the road and the pavement. And Peter had his bike with the Jones counter, and he was literally measuring it to the millimeter, the perfect line of the road, out and back, and putting nails in the road where the turnarounds were and the specific markers were. So that was that. And then he submitted all the paperwork, and that's how it became a certified Boston qualifier race. As long as we stay on that course, we're good.
Yep. And so Sandy and I, we have been endurance athletes basically our whole lives. So we've taken part in many, many running races. So we sat back and we thought, okay, what do we see at running races? What do we need to do to make this running race have all the things that are necessary to put on like a professionally run, well-organized race with everything that athletes need to succeed? So we thought, okay, there's medical, there's a timer, there's various vendors. So we went and we made our list and we started to call people up, and again, we were lucky in a way because it was the pandemic, and all of these people, they didn't have a lot else to do, so everyone was available that we needed to help us make the Georgina Marathon, happen that first year within that 8-week time. So the other thing that year is we didn't have a team. It was Sandy and I. We kind of looked at each other and thought, okay, we need some help. We need some help to make this thing happen. So of course, the first people we went to were our family, right? We begged and pleaded, and mostly told them that they had no choice but to help us. And then we went to our besties basically, and begged and pleaded again for them to kind of come out and help us make this thing happen that first year. And that's what we did. And we really appreciated that they trusted us, that they thought we could pull it off, and they all came up to Georgina that weekend. So what did that weekend look like, Sandy?
Well, it was pouring rain. I remember it was in October that year, our first race, and it poured rain the entire time, and we were staying at a cottage sort of way far down, and it was like a mud bowl. And we had to drag all of our equipment and gear, everything that we owned, into that cottage. Your parents were sitting there matching up gloves because Dynamic Funds had ordered gloves, and they came one giant box of rights and one giant box of lefts. So they sat there and paired up gloves all night.
Like 700 or 800 pairs of gloves.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then we were up at, I think, 3 a.m, hauling all the stuff back into the trailer in your truck and going along the road and setting out all the aid stations and setting out all the signs and hauling all the stuff around while another company was putting out cones on the road. So 10 kilometers of road were down there in the middle of the night in this pouring rain with headlamps on, trying to lift all this stuff and set up the course, which was nuts. And we're so glad that we don't have to do that anymore because we get to hire the professionals to do that now.
Right. But they're good memories to look back on. And then, when everyone got set up, and by everyone, I mean all of those subcontractors, like the timer and the medical and everybody else that took part, the athletes started to arrive. And like we said at the beginning, it was during the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and there were lots of rules about, what you needed to do to have a gathering at all or to have an event at all. And some of those were, everyone needed to have a vaccine passport. Yeah. Everyone needed to, I don't know if you'll remember that you had to go through like a few different questions and get a green check mark on an app before you could go into certain places or take part in different things. So everyone had to do that. So everyone lined up to get their bib number. Before they could get their bib number, they had to show us their vaccine passport, and they had to show us their green check mark, and they had to wear a mask. And then they got their bib number. And then when they lined up for the race, they had to have a mask on. So they had to wear their mask for that first 100 meters, I think it was, of the race. And then we had to have garbage cans at the 100-meter point where they could take their mask off and start running, presuming that they're spread out a little bit by then. And then they do their race, and they finish the race. And first thing we have to do is hand them another mask. That was, again, the province's rules. It was an adventure. But what I do know for sure is that we were really excited to see it all take place. And those runners were really excited and really happy to have a race to do. And
yeah. And then here's the first year medal, which I think somebody described as cute. So we did we had no idea. We got medals, and then we decided there were no t-shirts that year, right? But we did a buff, which has become sort of a trademark thing for us. That was the first buff that we did. And we still see runners out there running with these things on. So we know we hit something good with that one.
Yeah. And every year since then, we've had a different buff. So, at this point, people come back every year and they get a new buff, and they can keep them all. And it's part of the cool thing that happens at Georgina Marathon. And along with that, we also do t-shirts and other swag at this point.
That's last year's buff. It was the view of the sunrise coming up over the lake. Mm-hmm. That one.
Awesome.
So year 2, we added year 2. Boy, okay. So we ended up growing the race. We still had Dynamic Funds. We still had Gatorade that we forgot to talk about. They came on board as a sponsor and have been with us. for our aid stations. And we had a little more help with getting the course set up, and some people, now that they realized, oh no, they're going to do this again. So the people who were voluntold are now on the schedule.
Yeah.
And we also introduced the spring fling that second year, right? The spring fling marathon and half marathon. So by the time we got to the second year of the Georgina Marathon, we had actually done it 3 times, and we had a little bit of confidence in what we're doing, and we knew that we had something good going on. We realized that we needed to get some shuttle buses to get people from Briars and from parking lots, because it was getting pretty busy.
Yeah. So that first year, to give you some perspective, that first year we had 636 runners registered, which we were thrilled with, and we still are thrilled with. It was a great first year. But since then, we've managed to grow this race with all of your help, and all of your stories and encouraging other runners to come up. This year, we're planning on having about 2,200 registrants for the race before we sell it out, and that's a huge growth curve. That's like over 350% growth over 5 years. So we really appreciate all of you coming back, returning, sharing your positive stories, and giving us your feedback to let us know if there's anything we can do better for the year after. So we're really looking forward to this year. We do have a much bigger team now and a much bigger operation. Sandy mentioned that we started the spring fling that next year. Since then, we've actually grown to 4 races. So we've got a race called the Kawartha Sun Run in June, and the Nutrients Oakville 21.1 in October. So we have a much bigger team of people that help us plan and execute these events at this point. We start working on about a year in advance now, with all the permitting, all the things that need to happen before a race takes place. And our biggest help has been adding Albert and his course dynamics team to help us out there on the race course, making sure that that's all managed well before the event and during the event, to make sure that you all stay happy, healthy, and safe out there. So we've grown this into a larger race organization, and we love the new career that we kind of fell into.
Yeah. One of the funny stories from the very first one was getting the road occupancy permit. And in order to do that, you have to go through a lot of putting together maps and having every single, showing where all the cones will be and where all the signs will be, and they're all according to the Minister of Transport guidelines. And we had, that was all new language for us. But getting that road occupancy permit from the town is critical. You have to have it in order to run that race. And I think in spite of all our efforts, we got it the night before. So that kind of gives the race directors a bit of a heart attack. But I remember saying to Cindy that night when we were still waiting for it, well, if we don't have it, good luck to them trying to stop 650 people running down the road. But fortunately, we did get it. And then after that, they worked with us and granted it much more easily, because they know they can trust us.
Yeah, and we can trust them. So we know that it's all going to work out, and we know how each other operates. And we have a really great working relationship with the town of Georgina now, which is awesome.
Yeah. Or also maybe our Georgina alligator. We should talk about that, right?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, I think, when you and I were up there looking at the course, one of the first times we passed about 6K from the start finish line, we passed this boathouse with an alligator on top of it. And we thought, one of those weird ways that your and my brains work. Well, we should have an alligator mascot for this race.
I think there's an alligator crossing sign or something there, right? Beware of alligators.
An alligator and an alligator crossing. So we asked one of our great friends if he would drive from Oakville to Georgina, wear an alligator costume, and tell jokes the whole race. And of course, like the great friends we have, with no hesitation, he says, sure.
Yeah.
Drives up to Georgina, puts on the costume, and tells jokes in a French accent
and chase people up and down the road.
And since then, I think we've had the alligator present at almost all, if not all, of the races in Georgina, and it hasn't always had a French accent. The person in that costume has changes. The alligator that's shown up has changed a few times, but it's one of the fun things that happens at the Georgina Marathon and Georgina Spring Fling.
Yeah, and I think we're currently recruiting for our Georgina alligator this year. I'm guessing last spring, I ended up wearing the costume. It was a heck of a good time. It was a lot of fun, but I tell you, it's not really what you should be doing as race director. But going out and cheering for everybody and getting high fives and tail swats, and you can sort of be a kid out there. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, but we are recruiting, so I'm not doing that again.
I had a lot of fun watching you from the finish line, knowing it was you and everybody else not knowing it was you. So that was really funny.
Yeah, that was a good thing. No one else knew I was doing it.
Yeah. So this year at the Georgina Marathon, again, it's our 5th anniversary. And so we are having a bit of a party in the park on race day. And one of the cool things that we're going to have, that we did have at the Spring Fling this year as well, is we're going to have a live band playing. So we hope that any of you that are coming by to watch or to spectate some of those cheering squads, hang around, have a lot of fun, stay for the afternoon, bring your families. They can hang out at the park. They can go across to the beach just across the road from where the race, the park is. So that band is called Fat Cat Jamboree, and they're amazing. So you'll have a lot of fun there as well.
Yeah. And maybe challenge your kids to find the underground tunnel that gets you under the road over to the beach. A lot of people don't know that exists, but it's there. It's kind of fun.
We look forward to seeing you guys, like always. And Sandy and I, we always try our best to hang around at the start finish line, especially at the finish line, as you guys finish the race, to welcome you all across the line. So we look forward to seeing you. Happy to chat. If you have a few minutes, introduce yourself. Let us know what your race experience was like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy training, and see you guys in about 3 weeks for the 2025 version of the Georgina Marathon and Half Marathon presented by Dynamic Funds.